Hello, I'm Alex Mansfield, the host of Manny Talks Shooting, and welcome to another episode. This is the shooting podcast where I talk to individuals all across the shooting industry. We'll talk competition, self-defense, concealed carry. If you like this content, check out our YouTube channel, Manny Talks Shooting. And without further ado, let's get to this episode. Manny Talks Shooting is proudly presented to you by D2 Custom Guns. Did you know that Phil the Groundhog isn't the only thing Puxatawny, Pennsylvania is famous for? That's right, D2 Custom Guns, the home of Dan Heizenreiter and one of the best, fabulous 2011 builders in the country. So make sure you guys go check him out, D2 Custom, anywhere you can see him on the social media, Facebook, Instagram, go check him out. If you see myself, Patches Reader, anyone with the D2 Custom Guns, make sure you go check him out, and you will thank me later. Now, let's get on to the show. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to another installment of Manny Talks Shooting, proudly presented by D2 Custom Guns. So thank you. Make sure you check out Dan Heizenreiter on Instagram and Facebook, as always. Expect within the coming weeks some awesome pictures of my build. So I will be blowing up all of your feeds with that because that's going to be cool. But without further ado, we're going to talk to the man who likes to run a bunch of stats and a bunch of data and wheel guns. It's Mr. Jay Slater. How you doing, Jay?
Not bad. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for sitting down. This is going to be an awesome conversation. We're going to talk about a lot of topics, guys. So if something bores you, just keep listening because there's going to be something that you're going to enjoy. So we might dive in the deep end of some things, but it's okay. So, you know, Jay, most of the people in the practical shooting community know you or a little bit about you or kind of what you do, but kind of how'd that start? Who are you and how did you get into shooting?
All right. So I guess I'm Jay Slater. As Alex said, you probably know me from the stats stuff nowadays. That's a relatively recent development, though. So I kind of got into shooting in the early 2010s, roughly. That's I guess when I picked up bought a first gun myself.
Mm-hmm.
I spent some time doing CNR collecting. I had that license for a couple of years. I've got some of the classic CNR guns. There's a K31 in my safe. A couple of Mosins, obviously. Some SKSs. And the pride of the J Slater collection are I've got a World War I date stamped Lee Enfield and Webley revolver. So those are kind of those are my coolest historical things. So eventually, after a while, I kind of got to thinking, well, I've got all these. I should do something more than just let them collect dust in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
And I spent a little bit of time with a good friend of mine back then. We did a little bit of sort of tactical stuff, and then tried some two-gun shooting, and then. Out here in Pennsylvania, rifle shooting is not super interesting to me, say practical rifle stuff, because the bays are all so small compared to what you can find out west.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't find shooting at a target, 15 yards away with a rifle super interesting. So we'll just do the handgun part of that. And then that's what got me into USPSA. And after a succession of faster and faster divisions, I ended up going all the way the other direction into revolver. So I started in production. I shot a season of limited. I shot a season of carry ops. I'm like, this is all getting too easy. Let's go back to the ultra basics. And that's what led me in revolver, and that's kind of where I've been since.
Okay. So Jay, when you grew up, did you grow up around firearms, or is that a later development in life, like around 2010?
Kind of like my parents had a handgun or two in the house growing up, but it wasn't it wasn't a big part of our lives.
Gotcha. They were around, so they weren't unfamiliar. You weren't unfamiliar with them, but it wasn't like a big part of your life now.
It wasn't really a hobby back then. Yeah.
Right. Gotcha. So what got you into CNRs? Like, was it something you saw on the internet or magazine? Probably magazines back then.
Well, yeah. I've always liked kind of historical stuff. I've always been a wheel gun kind of guy
Mm-hmm.
to some degree, especially in that collecting world.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I kind of had the option, I can get one of these delivered to my door. That's kind of cool. So I did the whole process there, and both the Webleys I have, those were during in my CNR era. Those were
Mm-hmm.
buys then.
Gotcha. So are they tucked in the safe, super safe, or do they have really cool displays somewhere in your house?
They're currently in the safe, but maybe someday they'll be a display. I've got a bunch of relatively new woodworking stuff downstairs, and that may eventually those two hobbies may come together in a way that produces a nice case for them.
Gotcha. That would be cool. Mm-hmm. So you said you kind of started in production. Did you get into practical? So you had a buddy who got into practical shooting with you. Did he stick around, or did he end up falling off? Or
he is like a very occasional competitor now. He moved to Florida a couple of years ago, so if he wants to get back into it deep, he's in one of the best possible places for it as far as year-round availability.
Oh yeah, like Florida is the mecca of shoot. Like it's I mean, like it's either Florida, the Carolinas, or Arizona.
Yep. Yeah, those are the three. Yeah, he bought an open gun and has shoots it maybe 2 or 3 times a year, I think.
Oof, that's. Yeah. I don't know if I could let an open gun sit there not shooting it.
But anyway, like so that was kind of we had kind of a thing going on originally, like how many divisions can I get to C class in before he gets to B class in open?
That's too funny, but so you kind of did it, right?
Oh yeah, yep. I've got a couple at least, and anytime I shoot 4 class fires and something new, I got a new one. So
right, exactly. Well, and the nice thing is they go to master.
Yeah, those are my totally unearned M's.
Yeah. Oh, we will definitely be talking about that later. We're gonna pick your brain on that for sure. So you started in production. Did you start with like a Glock or something at that point, or
it was a Beretta 92?
Oh, okay. So a military guy. So I should have guessed that because if you like CNRs.
Yeah. So that was kind of the reason. I'm also a massive gun hipster in the sense that I like shooting what other people aren't shooting.
Okay. So I mean, people were shooting CZ, so you couldn't pick a CZ, right?
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Well, the other thing, like, even coming into Revolver, I kind of put that off for a year or two because I heard Ruger was going to come up with a gun, and I didn't want to be shooting a Smith in Revolver, which is already like the most niche of the handgun divisions. Like, I don't want to shoot what everyone else is shooting in this tiny little club, so I gotta make sure I wait for something different.
Yeah, and I mean, there's pretty much two guns. There's pretty much the Ruger now and the Smith.
Yeah, and the Rugers, I mean, they don't make those very often or in very large batches. So
yeah, you gotta twist somebody's ankle to get you a new one, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just hope they never break.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Or at least if they break, that they still have enough parts around back at the factory to fix them back up for me.
Right. So you shot production. Did you go to limited minor? Or did you get a limited major gun at that point?
So it was actually I did actually switch to a CZ at that point, but it was a PO9. So it was a PO9 in 40, which is again like it's a pretty unusual limited gun.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And like your factory 180 grain, so it's not like a soft shooting limited gun either. But I still I enjoyed the extra points there.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you said you kind of started in that 20. So you started collecting in the 2010. So did you say you started USPSA around that time, or was it a little bit later than that?
That was a little bit later. So about I think 2016 was the first year I shot a match. And,
okay.
I shot a couple then, and it's ramped up since.
Gotcha. So from your start time in USPSA to shooting Revolver, how many years do you think?
So I guess I started USPSA in 2016, and Revolver was a 2020 thing.
Okay,
so
three.
So
a COVID
seasons.
thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
I was kind of like sitting here itching for matches to start back up, like dry firing the revolvers in the basement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The weird clicky clacks and
yeah.
Hey, at least you get a click every time.
It's true. It's probably the best dry fire gun out there, just because the only thing that's different is the bang.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it is a boat anchor, though. I mean.
Oh yeah.
Now, so what do you think? What is your Ruger's weigh right now?
I think they're about 45 ounces. They're not like tremendously heavy, but they're not lightweight either. And it's also very like a very forward weight too, pretty nose heavy. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, the nice thing is, I mean, you have nine chambers to deal with, but it's nose heavy, so at least it returns kind of decent.
Yeah, no, it's a very flat shooting gun. It's funny, the USPSA revolver is about the least practical revolver you can imagine.
Mm-hmm. I
want like a super big frame so I can fit 8 rounds in there. But it's got to be soft shooting, so it doesn't need to be like not a powerful gun by any means. Just it's like shooting 8. It's kind of the modern 32 AC, like the 32 whichever 32 revolver cartridge used to be the thing.
Yeah. 32 ACP or 32 short Colt.
Like 30. There's like 32 H&R or something. I don't know. I'm really badly read about revolver caliber history.
See, this is where we need Mr. Bakken at, because he could just spew it off.
He would know it all. Yep.
Oh yes. Sometimes I will talk to Alex, and he will get in the weeds on revolver stuff, and I'm like, oh. I try to keep up with him, but sometimes it's like meow. For any of you who don't know, that's a Jeff Dunham joke. Meow. But God, I still can't believe people haven't seen that. But
we get a lot of new interns at work, and you can really tell they're like, how young they are when they come, but it's like, God, you don't even know some of the funny stuff that like I grew up with, and it's like, oh well.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean, I'm not that old. I mean, but anywho, so from the time you started shooting in 2020 shooting revolver, how long did it take you to make Grandmaster?
I made it in the let's see, I guess it was the middle of 2022. So
Okay.
2020, about, well, I guess 2.5 years or so.
Okay.
Yeah. The thing about revolvers, there's not a lot of stuff written about some of the things that you need to be really good at to make Grandmaster, like reloads, for instance.
Yeah. Well, and they're especially difficult, right? Like from watching people shoot revolver, like I watch Alex shoot on the move with shoot with a revolver and reload on the move. I'm like, it's probably the easiest gun to muzzle yourself with.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like it, I mean, I have been muzzled in it. Like I was working a major match and I got muzzled by a open cylinder revolver. I'm just kind of like, I'm at offside IRO and I'm like, he really pointed that at me, and I couldn't even say stop. By the time I was like, I'm getting muzzled here, and I'm like, oh yeah, I should say stop.
Yeah, the reload where you pass the gun between the hands, there's I think a particular danger there if you're not doing it in a particular way that gives you better muzzle control. That one can get pretty flippy pretty easily.
Yeah. Well, in your Ruger, you don't have like, it's not the normal like a Smith cylinder release, is it?
No, so the Smith is push forward. The Ruger is kind of push toward the frame.
Okay. Okay. And that's probably makes a whole difference. If you're trying to teach somebody how to reload a Ruger versus a Smith, it's completely different.
Yeah. Just one of the things that Ruger does better than Smith, I think, on that front is with a Smith, if you're pushing on the cylinder, like with your index finger, you can't actuate the release. It'll jam up. With the Ruger, they're independent, so you can kind of do both actions at once. It's basically just to open the gun, you're squeezing your thumb and your index finger together.
Okay, that's actually pretty nice. And I have this nice Dan Wesson. It's got a scope on it because I inherited it. It's a hunting revolver. I hate the cylinder release on this Dan Wesson. It's absolutely like, this thing is not meant for speed at all. It's I'm just like, it's a cool blued gun, and I mean, I'll probably I'll hardly ever shoot it, but it's like, damn. But so you make a revolver roughly in 2022. Make GM and a revolver. How'd that feel? Did it feel gratifying for 2 years to grind on a single platform and then become
absolutely. GM? The friend I mentioned earlier, the one who I started shooting with, in about, I guess it was 2019. I was kind of deciding what I was going to do for the next shooting season, and it was between like some ill-advised open project, which I'm still fond of those, by the way. But between that and then revolver, and so we had this conversation about it, and then he like literally wrote down his guess and folded it up and put it in his desk for to come back to later. And of course, he was right. I enjoy the mechanical complexity of revolvers. I enjoy the kind of the history behind them. I enjoy the all the thinking and effort that went into design that makes all these things line up just so to everything happening at just the right time and just the right order.
Right, and there's just a craftsmanship to them too, right? Like it's not like a polymer gun that they injection mold the frame, they throw some metal bits in it and fuse it together and then call it a day.
Yeah, even a lot of mass market guns, revolver wise, are still going to have like hand fit parts, just because the tolerance stacking. It's important to get things more precise than I think you generally can.
Right,
with like everything fully mass produced.
So, I mean, just like any grip, right? Revolver grips is probably are completely, personal, right? Are you a kind of a wood grip guy, like a rubber grip, or what are you?
I'm a super boring rubber grip guy. I get the kind of most boring Hogue ones I can find. So they've got a little bit of stippling on them and a little bit of palm swell action. But yeah, it's funny. Like the guns, the Rugers, they come with these really pretty like hardwood grips. And the first thing I do is I take them off and put them in my parts box and buy like the cheapest entry level Hogue rubber that I can slap on them.
Right. Now, do you cover your hands in like pro grip like everybody else, or are they pretty clean?
So I'm revolver glove guy. So
that is right. You shoot with a glove. Now, is it just on one hand?
Yeah, so it's literally a golf rain glove. So it gets better. It gets stickier when I sweat, which is good because especially in the summertime, that's a big concern for me.
Yeah. So I kept asking about. I was like, why has he put a glove on it? So what you started the glove?
Originally, it was because I did the hand switching reload, and the cylinder got hot with my 160 grain bullet,
Mm-hmm.
3 grains of bullseye load.
Mm-hmm.
So dropping the gun into that, like dropping the cylinder into that hand, could get pretty toasty on a summer day, and the glove helped a little bit. But now it turns out that it's actually just really nice for grip purposes. It sticks to my skin, on the other hand, really nicely, and saves me money in pro grip. So
well, there you go. I mean, it makes sense now, right? Now it's just like, because I remember a couple times Instagram is evil, and it just keeps unfollowing me from people, and it's like, oh, I knew I followed Jay at some point, and then I remember watching dry fire reloads with the gloved hand, and I'm like, oh, that makes sense. It makes sense now. So I'm like,
yeah. There are a couple of videos at my local match where the usual suspects are giving me like Michael Jackson noises in the background.
That is always funny.
Yeah.
Of course, now everyone wants to know. I have some form of dog noise because he wants in the room too, and he's just like, so guys, this is almost like a Steve Anderson podcast, but my dog doesn't bark. He's just a chill dog. But anywho, so you shoot in, primarily is Greater Pitt you'd say your home range or your home club?
It's the one that's closest to me, and it's the one that I shoot the most outside of the match I run.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
so you're actually a match director as well, then? Okay.
Yeah, the one I run is about 45 minutes north of Greater Pittsburgh, up toward the Newcastle, Pennsylvania area.
Okay.
Yeah. It's funny. It's further away than Greater Pitt is, so it's the second closest club to me now.
Mm-hmm.
And yet still, I'd call it my home club up there.
Gotcha. So are you primarily, do you just shoot USPSA, or how much I-Corps do you get in?
A little bit, maybe 1 or 2 matches a year. I'm kind of in an unfortunate I-Corps desert in that there are local matches about 3 or 4 hours from me in almost every direction, but there's nothing around here.
Yeah, it's stuck, right?
Yeah. It's I think more popular in New York because of capacity limits, and I guess they just have more revolver enthusiasts further west and further south.
Right. Well, yeah, because I know when Alex runs his local I-Corps match, it's him and like 4 other people who are the revolver nuts. I mean, he'll eventually he adds the people who want to just shoot for no score, and it's just like hey, we're having fun shooting guns, right? So
yeah.
Well, and the cool part is we set up USPSA so they shoot I-Corps on like Saturday. We shoot USPSA on Sunday, so we'll set up first thing Saturday morning, and then they'll just put up new targets. They'll depend on how many targets they want to shoot at on that bay, and they'll figure out how they're going to do it. And, and then they just take their target. So then they're only one squad, so they pop the target sticks and take it to the next bay. But hey, you got to do what you got to do, right? I mean,
that's a clever idea.
Yeah, well, and it saves them because they don't ever have to tear it down either. They just leave it up. They're just like, sweet, like victory. But it's one of these days I need to actually stay and watch them shoot I-Corps because I'm interested in watching them shoot. See how differently everyone shoots comparatively from like an I-Corps time plus system to a USPSA hit factor system.
It is. It's a very interesting transition to make because unlike IDPA, a lot of I-Corps stages really closely resemble USPSA.
Mm-hmm.
So unless you've really drilled on the tombstone target to know, I should be shooting this at a certain pace, and it's not the same pace I'd shoot like a USPSA silhouette.
Right. Because
go on.
But there is more. You have more to squeeze on a USPSA silhouette. You've got that giant juicy A zone compared to that X and that X ring, that 10 ring.
Yeah, it's a fairly small target.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's a big target, but it's a fairly small, safe area on that target.
Right. Yeah. How many IRCs have you shot, or have you not shot that many?
So far, just the one, the 2022. 2023, I forget where it was, but I wasn't able to make it that year for vacation and travel reasons.
Gotcha. So are you going to shoot 2024 in Ontolani?
I am. That's a nice, easy drive, and I've got kind of a place to stay already lined up. So.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, it's you can't beat it. You guys just got to drive to Ontolani. I mean, that's
it's not far. 4.5 hours.
Yeah, I mean, you got lucky that time. Were you? And I don't believe you weren't able to go out to what World World Revolver? Wasn't that was
Yeah.
a couple weeks ago,
Yep.
wasn't it?
That was out in California. Same issue there as far as travel time and so forth.
Gotcha.
That I think was right around Area 8, which
Yeah, was it? Was it a couple? It was like what, 2-3 weekends ago, maybe. I don't know. All my dates are jumbling together. My weekends have gone.
it's been a very busy summer for me too. Things that happened like 3 weeks ago. That was at the beginning of July. It's insane.
Exactly.
That wasn't last year.
Exactly. So you bring up Area 8. So that was I was actually very impressed. So I've been stalking, well, not stalking. I was looking at Area 8 stuff because there was a lot of cool stuff that you and David did. I didn't get to end up watching your whole live recap because that thing was like 2+ hours long. I want to think that was really long, and I was just like, dang it. Well, of course, you guys do things when I'm recording podcasts and it doesn't work out. I'm like, I'm busy. I can't watch it. But so whose brainchild was the coverage? Was it his or yours?
It was kind of I think a group effort. We had both kind of independently thought to ourselves, like, man, it'd be really easy to, well, not really. It's plausible to put on good coverage of a USPSA match, and you don't need a ton of resources to do it. And I think after one of the episodes I recorded with him, we talked about that for a while, and then we were kind of on the lookout for an opportunity to give it a try. And being so close to Greater Pittsburgh and kind of knowing the crew there, I was able to pitch them on it, and we got our foot in the door that way.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's pretty. It is really cool because I saw like the stage walkthroughs, and you read the stage. I love that drone footage. It kind of gave people who weren't at the match, they could really understand the stages prior to like your coverage.
Exactly. Yeah, it's something you can really get a sense for what the angles are like, where targets can be taken from. It was even useful for people who were at the match. They would come up to me and say, "Hey, this was really handy. I couldn't make it out yesterday to walk stages, but I feel pretty good now, kind of seeing how they all looked on the ground."
Right. You could find that there was no real hidden targets at that point, right?
Right. Yeah.
You're like, okay, I watched this video. I know there's a target over here somewhere that I have to come over here to see.
Yeah. So like you're maybe not making all of your plans ahead of time, but you are at least going into your 5-minute walkthrough with the ability to really break it down and put together a good plan in that time.
Well, and I really like the fact that when you did the videos, there were only target sticks. There was no true, so no one ever had any real advantage of, oh, there's this sneaky no-shoot target that's going to be here, right? Everyone had, it was just like very generic. They could put up whatever target they wanted. They could all be zebras for all we care.
Yeah, well, see, I think the next time we do it, it really comes down to what the schedule of the match is like, as to whether there'll be targets or not. But
right, you were there in enough lead time ahead of time in setup that you're like, okay, I can get my drone up there and.
Yeah, I was there pretty much the entire week leading up to the match. I took that whole week off of work, and it'd be really like a good couple of 10-hour days on the range before the staff shoot, which were also 10-hour days, like with other coverage stuff on both ends of the shooting.
Right. Yeah, that was definitely. It takes an army to put on a match. Like I put on multiple major matches, like being like at the home club, and I'm like, all right, how many weekends do you need? It's like it's not even that. Well, and the worst part is when you got to drive an hour plus to get to the range. It's like, well, it's right about an hour, but it's still like by the time you get there and you get unpacked and you got all your crap out, you're like, all right, let's get to building. I will say the invention of hammer drills in USPSA has been a godsend for hanging up everything now.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. That was It turned at our club match. It turned driving the stakes from a job nobody wanted to do into the job that everyone wants to do. So,
right. Yeah. Now there's, and depending on which hammer drill you have, well, not hammer drill, but what hammer bit you have, because if you have Corey Shields, you don't have to bend over. But if you have like the Shooting Sports Innovation ones, you got to bend over a little bit. But
yeah,
our problem at my new home club is the fact that there's rocks underneath. Like there's big rocks that you always. It seems like the nail goes straight to the big rock, and you're like, well, go get the real hammer, because that's the only thing that's going to push past this thing for some reason.
Yeah, at our some of the bays at our club are kind of cut into the side of a sandstone hill.
Ooh, so, yeah.
Hey,
it was a great place for a range, but not really putting things on the ground.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the big things I played it on my live stream. I did a live stream right after. I think it was right after. No, it was a couple weeks after Area 8, because Kentucky was the weekend after, and I was busy and I was down there. Your video you did with Dan, the D2 custom commercial, like I thought it was awesome, right? So Dan's such a good dude, and honestly showed off, the person kind of Dan is in a cool clip, in small package. I mean, if I remember, go ahead.
That was such a fun thing to do. I was kind of a last minute addition to the workload for the week, and it was probably honestly kind of an overreach as far as what we could realistically expect to get done. But I'm still glad we did it because that was the 5 or 6 minute video was a distillation of, I don't know, probably an hour of conversation, just kind of getting to the core of what, a little bit about him and kind of how he approaches the gun building business. I thought it was I think a picture you don't often get to see of people in that line of work.
Right. Well, and it puts such a good spotlight on the title sponsor, right? He did title sponsor Area 8, right? These companies who, take on this monetary investment and their even a reputational investment, right? Like, so say I know this would not have happened. Say Area 8 went south, right? Mm-hmm. His name is connotated with that match, so it's like it's like it's that public eye. Like, oh, the match was terrible, so we can't like the guy who sponsored the match, right?
Yep.
Which is, I mean, and it's sad to say, I mean, a lot of the sponsors and even the title sponsor, they don't get good coverage of themselves. They don't get good promotion. And I think that's almost like a job in itself, is the media consultant guy the guy who's suckered into doing media for the match prior. Like this guy, I mean, that just, it seems I don't know. I do a podcast. David and I do podcasts. We do this freaking all the time. We're always putting out content. How hard, and adding another workload. It's like, Lord have mercy on my soul. I have to have a list on my phone. Wake up time, get to work, make first Instagram post. It's just this list of things I have to run through my day. And I'm like, especially when there's a big, major match season is horrible because there's everything's going on. It's it's either you're practicing, you're shooting locals and going to big matches. It's like, Lord have mercy. So
I will say that this year, my calendar is actually a little bit lighter than it's been in the past, just kind of for the purposes being able to have more practice time in between the big matches.
Right.
Time where I can work on various skills and then try them out in environments where there's, I guess there's not really much on the line in Revolver in most matches anyway. But
yeah. Well, and that's nice. I mean, you do lose out on. Well, last year you worked at least 2 major matches?
I worked Carry Optics Nationals, and did I work a second one?
I think it was Battle for the North Coast.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yep. And which is unfortunate they're not hosting Battle for the North Coast this year, but Area 5 is that weekend in silly Ohio land.
The guys at Crooked Creek were maybe not looking for a bit of a break, but ready for a bit of a break. And Area 5 needed a weekend, so it was a natural trade.
Yeah, I mean, it happens, right? And it seems like it's just how it works. People with more age have more free time.
Yeah.
So they're always working more matches and whatnot. It's just how it goes, I guess. Mm. But darn young kids who are getting in the sport, volunteer. Darn it. I don't care if you pay your match, become volunteer.
It's actually funny. The reason I got my RO cert originally was so I could shoot major matches for free. Because that was
Me too.
Yeah, that was in 2020, before I had really decided to get good at Revolver. And so if I'm not going to be great at this, I should at least not be paying to shoot matches.
Right. I mean, and there's always the connotation of, you shoot staff, you're not going to actually do well in the match, right? There's always that connotation, but it's now let me guess. So you're in the Pennsylvania, Ohio area. So I'm betting, did Paul Hernandez do your class?
He did.
The cane of knowledge, I say. No, Paul's a good dude. Sometimes I just nope, I got to get out of the story. I don't have time to sit here, Paul. I love Paul to death, but
I think last I heard, I think he might have hung up his spurs as of that last Battle for the North Coast. That was the last one he was, I think, planning on playing RM for.
Yeah, especially I think he had a student at Buckeye, but that's half the work.
Yeah,
he gets to more chit chat in the golf cart than anything at that point. And that's the best thing about having your own golf cart. You can just zip away. Gotta go. Oh, fake radio call gone.
I'm hoping next time we do press for a match, we'll have a golf cart or 2 of our own.
Yeah. And that's that. So Greater Pitt's a little bit spread out, right? So it was a little bit of a walking trip.
So their bays are all pretty compact, but you kind of have to walk around the outside, like the perimeter of the bays to get anywhere. So they're all facing each other. So
Okay.
yeah. So it's a bit of a hike if you're on foot.
Right. So if you want to get to like stage 12 from 1, you got to go around the outside essentially.
Well, yeah, that one's kind of from 1 to 12 in particular, because they've got like a new batch of bays down a hill, kind of next to their rifle range.
Gotcha.
And so that's you're walking around the outside, then you're walking down a hill, then you're walking around the outside again.
So it's definitely, if I'm going down, so it's just drag my cart down there with me.
Yep.
Or let my cart drag me down there.
Yeah. I think that's one. I'm pretty sure they have plans to put in still more bays. I think they've got six and 8 or 9 now, but I think they want at least another 6 or 8 there.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually, I think it'll make sense to run the matches there kind of in distinct zones, and that should, I think, really cut down on the walking for the shooters at least.
Right. Yeah. Zones would at least help. Right. That definitely. I've seen arguments for no zones. I've seen the arguments for zones. I think it really is range dependent.
Mm-hmm.
If zones is going to work for you or not. Now, it makes no sense if all the bays are in one big circle, like one big line, like frostproof. It can and can't make sense for zones, right? Like I was at a club in Michigan where they had 10 bays, all of them butted up to each other. They faced all out from each other. So you just you did a big old horseshoe from one trucking to each bay, but then you'd end at 10, which makes no sense to do zones because then you're double looping if you had to, But I've seen arguments for zones and no zones. I think it all is range dependent, but definitely can help.
For those ranges in a big line, I like the thing I've heard that the South Carolina section does, where you're kind of skipping bays.
Oh, yeah, that's north. I think that's North Carolina.
One of the Carolinas.
Yeah, so they'd go like 1, then you go to 3, which 1. Yeah, I like that. Because you'd never have to need you don't need somebody for staff to drive somebody from 1 from 10 to 1. That's another body put on a bay.
Yeah, nobody ever has any super long walks either. You're always just walking roughly 2 bays distance.
Yep, and that's kind of how they did it at Cardinal, or like they do in their wood slat bays. Mm-hmm. Is like even like especially at Buckeye Blast, they'll skip like a few bays here and there, so it's not like you're always moving downwards, but it's always like. Because they have like 12, I want to say they have 12 wood slatted bays, so they don't use them all, but
yeah,
which is nice. But I think everyone enjoyed Carry Optics Nationals this year with how Matt Hopkins did the stages. So
that's what I heard. It was I think it got, from everyone I heard at least, their rave reviews.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I went down. It was funny enough. I went down on Saturday morning. I got there about 9:00, and I didn't even see David because he went later. He got there at about 11. I'm like,
yep.
I'm like. How did I miss it? But it's all good. It was actually fun to watch and actually talk to people and not have to worry about shooting. That was the best part.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a lot to be said for that.
I mean, and that's kind of another reason why I like. So I got volunteered told to do stats at Buckeye in Area 5 this year, and I'm like, it's kind of nice. I can just talk to shooters and not have to worry about pushing them through the bay. I'm just like,
yeah.
Which is great for me because it's a networking thing and just making sure I see everybody who wants to see me and pick my brain about things. So it's nice. Yeah. It's almost like you're an area director who doesn't have to do anything at the match.
Well, you got like the area director with none of the responsibilities, all the ability to socialize to some degree and to meet and greet.
Yeah, there's a couple times I was like, I got a stats call, I got to zip guys, but that's the benefit of not being stuck.
Yeah,
but so. When it came to coverage, because you were out there with a microphone at some point talking to different shooters after they do their runs, especially like on the bus stage, I remember. Mm-hmm. How many cameras did you have out there, being able to record different stages at the same time?
So that was, I think, one of the parts we had the most trouble with, actually. So a lot of the video we posted stage-wise, we had the drone stuff, obviously, which was, I think that went fairly smoothly. And then I had a spare cell phone and a gimbal camera that I could use for on the ground stuff or interviews. Mm-hmm. And we had a couple of remote cameras. I think we had 4 setups we could put out there, but just the difficulty of getting those to talk over Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi as a radio protocol is not really very good for streaming large amounts of video over unreliable links.
Yeah.
Internally the way it's resolving collisions is just listening to see if anybody else is talking, and then trying to fit a packet in edgewise if there is. And eventually you just kind of like multiple cameras just sort of bog down, and they're all trying to talk over each other. And we were on a mesh network too, which got us coverage everywhere, but also had the downside that each of those mesh hops is another station trying to send messages while other ones are trying to talk to. So we ended up, I think we were able to get 2 cameras to work reliably on one Wi-Fi network, which was a bit of a bummer because I think that was something that David had put a lot of effort into, for one. And for 2, it would have been, I think, really cool being able to follow up. Like, I think the super squad, so to speak, was coming through kind of those front 6 bays at Greater Pittsburgh on the morning of on Sunday morning, so that we would have been able to follow them basically all the way through if the camera stuff had all panned out.
Right. So now at Area 8, was there pretty much only one super squad? Or
so there was one where a bunch of the top guys were, so like Seiler and Edens and Hetherington and Morgan Leonhardt was there too, and so forth. But there were some other contenders sort of spread out through the rest of the match too. Like I spent probably, I don't know, 2 hours like collectively on Sunday trying to catch up to John Vlieger to get a video of him running a stage, and every time I found him, he'd just finished shooting. It was so like a massively frustrating part of the experience. That, like, I've been trying to like actually, like, you're potentially in contention for this. I want to see you run a stage, but I got him on the boat stage, I think, and that's all.
Oh yeah, and that's not. And other than just directly performing on the boat stage, there's nothing really entertaining to watch, right? And that's like
it's a good one to like kind of get the hype footage of. I had a camera downrange for that, and that was a neat perspective on it. One you don't see very often for like ground level, like target height.
Yeah. Now, did you ever have? Was it and I'm assuming it was angled where it was never gun was never really coming across its line of sight, or its its point.
It was kind of. So the way that worked, there were 3 targets on either side of the stage, and then like a sponsor banner on a wall in the middle, and I was just down below the sponsor banner.
Okay, so it's not like there was a target right next to it to be like, oh, hopefully my camera doesn't get shot.
But it did get transitioned across. So
so the opportunity was there, but if somebody shot your camera, they were going home.
Probably, yeah.
I would hope so. I mean, like, I would hope so at that point. Just like, yeah, I mean, you were trigger prepping a little too hard there. I can't really say I could argue the fact that you weren't engaging the target.
Yeah.
I mean, but I would also use the reversal to be like, if that was me, I'd be like, no, I was prepping to engage that target. You can't say I wasn't trying to.
It was just a bad miss. Okay.
Yes, a really bad miss. And I mean, that's the thing too, right? Like, being a range officer, you're like, I know how to swing this a little bit for myself. I mean, I'll argue something until I'm blue in the face. If I lose, I lose. But no, that was cool. And now, how many gigs of data do you think you had of video files when you were all said and done with this project?
Lots. So I had on my own, I think, about 150 or 200 gigabytes. My buddy John, who was running like the 4K gimbal camera and the machine gun trigger still camera, I think he had about a terabyte at the end.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he's probably still siphoning through it too.
Yeah. Slowly but surely getting to the bottom of it.
So he was running a video camera and a stills camera at the same time.
Well, he'd switch off between them.
Okay.
And it's a very serious gimbal unit, like professional grade 4K camera on there.
Got it. And now I'm assuming, is that like his hobby, or is that like something he does kind of professionally?
I think it started as a hobby and now it's professional for him. He does some other photography weekend gigs.
Darn weddings.
I don't know if they do weddings like he and his partner, but like he does a lot of kind of tactical firearms training photography too. So he's got that sort of built-in knowledge about like where to be on a stage and not get in the way of the RO or the shooter.
Yeah, and how not to mess up your shot, right? Like
exactly.
Yeah. And no offense to people who follow with the camera. Like, so I do this Chris Galnett Skycam, right? I'm assuming you've seen video like that. It's so great. I don't have to. I don't get in the way of an RO. I don't have to ask anyone to touch my phone and record me. I hate. That's always the worst part. Like, someone tries to get a video with the phone and they're either in your way, or you get the butt of the RO in the whole video, and you're just like, oh, it's like it's no good. Well, and then you've got the ROs on a major match. You're like, don't come across the rear fault line, and you're like, I got it, guys.
I need zoom. No, the sky cams, actually, that was the inspiration behind sort of bringing the drones out for the high overhead behind footage.
Yeah. Did anyone ever complain about maybe the drone noises throughout the day, or
Not not in a way that I heard of it, at least.
okay?
And there was one squad on one stage where an RO who was zealously protective of competitive equity asked every competitor individually if they were okay with the drone, and everyone said yes. So
Yeah. Well, and that's cool. And the nice
Yeah.
thing is, now, did you have to actually manually like control it the whole time, or did you just kind of tell it to stay there and just record?
pretty much let it stay there.
Okay.
We had a bunch of DJI drones. So I had a Mavic 2. Greater Pittsburgh had a Mavic 2, and David brought an Air 3 and a Mini 3, Mini 4, something like that he was flying now and then.
Gotcha.
And those are all great in that they'll just like set them in a spot, they'll stay there. Although for battery reasons, I actually ended up landing and taking off, like landing as shooters were finishing and taking off kind of at the start of the make ready, just to stretch the life of the battery
Yeah.
there.
Oh, I totally agree with that, because some people's make readies are ridiculously long.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the one.
25 minutes of hover time. If just someone's taking a minute to
Right.
go
Yeah.
over their stage plan again.
Well, and you think about it, if it's 45 minutes, if they're following the squad matrix, it's 45 minutes minimum. Like 45 minutes that's the time for a squad to be in and out of this bay. That's a lot of freaking, video and battery life on that drone to be up there the whole time. So
Yeah. And if you think about like your average stage, like a long course is maybe going to be 30 seconds long per shooter, and you've got maybe 12 shooters in a squad, so you've got 6 minutes of actual shooting footage out of that 45 minutes, and capturing as much of that with as little cruft as possible is going to be ideal for like your memory cards.
Yeah. Now the good part is you could take all that make ready footage and be like, I'm going to make fun of all of you people for the longest make ready.
It is. I can't be too aggressive with that because I've got a pretty long make ready myself.
I mean, you do shoot a wheel gun, right? You gotta make sure they're all in the right spot. Don't pull the wrong one.
Oh yeah.
When you pull the wrong because you could pull the wrong moon clip. That is the one thing I always make fun of Alex. It's like, yeah, at least you get your brass back. I'm always like, do you want me to step on it? You want me to step on the moon clip? Do you want me to do it?
I usually like a pantomime kicking dust over a magazine when when that comes up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. I don't even clean my magazine. It's okay. I shoot open and I don't care. Is there a rock in there? Nope.
It's like as long as it's not a maraca, you're good to go.
Exactly. Yeah. No, and I think this is like the future for capturing of it media at a match. It's so cool. I mean, it's different than what F5 Productions does or Shooting USA. It's something you can kind of tangibly watch and follow up a little bit with. Mm-hmm. It's just to get people to understand hit factor scoring. That's the difficult part of like doing the coverage. Is like, and it always changes too. It's not like it's not like someone's up there forever. Mm-hmm. The next person could always knock them down. So then it changes the point standings. And
yeah, it's kind of a curious way we score things with essentially 10 or 12 different leaderboards at a major match, all adjusting and then all getting added up at the end.
Right. Now, it would be cool if there was a way to integrate like your software with practice score competitors, so you could and high available is weird because depending on which zone you shoot and what time frame you shoot it, you could always have the people who shoot the most points be at the top, but then in reality, the super squad's going to murk their scores here by the end of the match, and then it's like
no, the kind of the prediction of like what's going to happen in a match while the match is going on is definitely sort of in that black art territory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that'd be cool. Like even if at a match, right? Like say where they have lunch, and you could just see. It'd be cool to have big monitors and be like, all right, this is where we're standing right now with predictions. Like, all right, and then these guys could flip flop or what, And sometimes the points are already decided. Like by the end, last couple stages on the last day, you're just like, yeah, there's not much that he can screw up to lose, and
like he's got. He can zero a stage and still take the win, kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm kind of like JJ, who finished like 16th last year with a zeroed stage at Carry Optics. I think it was Carry Optics Nationals.
That happened on the bay next to the one I was working, actually. That squib.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. So because you were on what 10?
Yep.
The dreaded stage 10 that ate a lot of people's lunch.
Oh yeah. I mean, well, like I think I did the numbers. There were like we had about a quarter, I think, of all the DQs in the match, and we were not trying to be like harsh there. We were calling the ones we were only like really totally sure of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you weren't there to notch timers.
Right. It's just that That was the one with like the target at 160 degrees out to the side as you're coming out of a thing where you want to reload after shooting that target, which is kind of asking for it to some degree as far as stage design goes. But.
Right. Hey, if people shot wheel guns, they wouldn't have this problem because their guns pointed at the ground.
That's true. Or at the very least, it's much harder to tell.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So I guess I want to move to, I want us to talk about like the stat stuff, right? So the ELO stuff a little bit. I'm curious, is like statistics and the statistician stuff, is that part of your day job or is that completely like a hobby you've picked up?
Entirely a hobby. Up until like 2 weeks ago, I had zero formal background in it whatsoever. The formal background I have now is I found just like an introductory statistics book at a thrift store, and I've been kind of working through that on my own. I figure if I'm going to do this, I should make sure I'm doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what really stirred starting the ELO ratings and tracking this data from Practice Score?
It was a conversation on a Discord channel. Somebody said it'd be kind of cool to have like USPSA ELO, and they shared that there's like an IPSC site that has kind of an attempt at doing the same thing. So yeah, that's not a bad idea. So I spent, I don't know, a bunch of evenings working on that, and came up with something that kind of sort of worked at first, and over the course of again more Discord conversations and sort of tuning to make the numbers reflect the qualitative reality, we got something that seems to work pretty well. So
well, yeah, I went up in the standings, so I'm okay with this.
I always tell people, like, if you beat your numbers, that makes me happy because it means you're getting better, and that's a good thing.
Right, like, so, because you just updated the other week. I think it was last week you updated. And the last update, I think, or formal pushed update was like in February.
Yeah.
And I was behind some people that I'm like, this is bull crap. I should not be behind them. And then it's like, oh, we flip flopped. Okay, I'm like, I'm just in the low 500s. In open, and then the people who were ahead of me before are like in the 700s now. I'm like, victory is mine. But which is the nice thing is because I dug through it. The only thing I didn't like about it is I couldn't just use it like a table. There's no like table function to be like, okay, I only want my class, right?
Oh yeah, there's.
So I have to sort. I sorted it, and which just kind of skews the numbers a little, because
I think I actually forgot to I think it has like the Google Sheet has some sorting stuff in there, but.
Yeah, it's not. Unfortunately, it's not as nice as like using Excel tables and stuff. Like I use it like at work. We have a full, Microsoft suite. At home, I don't pay for that crap on this computer. I'm like, Google it is. But the nice thing is if you sorted it with like a table, at least in Microsoft, I still retain my original number, so I can kind of see So I'm 500 something, but then like the next, say B class guy is 510, right? So I'm only like 9 spots down really in reality of like the overarching scale of open division and USPSA. Unless when you sort it by class, your number gets changed because of your line number gets changed. But that's my only complaint. But it's okay. I'm happy with where I'm sitting in the ELO at the moment. Now, which just means I want to work harder because I'm like 70th in B class open division, like due to ELO. I'm like, well, I don't want to finish 70th in nationals if I go to nationals. This is crap.
Yeah.
But
the line going up, that's a powerful motivation for a lot of people I've found.
Oh yeah. Well, the nice thing is it actually takes match result. Now, is there a way for the data, like, because it also reflects what major matches, level 3, level 2, level 1s, right?
So it's just majors, right? So anything that shows up on the USPSA.org, like major match calendar, that's the source I pull from for what counts.
Well, so that's even better because then you're not getting the false data of, I won my local match, like versus like 3 people, right? So which is nice because
we did. There was a lot of work in making locals work relatively well in the early days. So like Nick Reynolds is like a kind of, I think, central or eastern Pennsylvania area limited grandmaster.
Right.
Yeah, solid guy, solid shooter. And the problem was though that he was like when he shot locals in the local match data set, it was continually beating up on like the other like the B class guys shooting limited out there.
Right.
So we'd have things where like the peak rating and everything else would be like 2,000, and he was up at like 3,400 because there was nobody to bring his rating back down.
Right. Well, like in Pennsylvania, the nice thing, like in that Area 8 area, you've got Nick Reynolds, you've got Chris Galnett, you've got Hempel, you've got people like Jeff Emmerich. Where did you go, Jeff? Like he was like a professional golfer, but have you ever met Jeff Emmerich?
I don't know if I have.
Well, he kind of fell off the shooting world. He always hung out with Hempel for a while. So, but then there's just a bunch of really good shooters in that Area 8 zone, like that Pennsylvania, Virginia area. And it's like, like what? Shadowhawk and Antelani, have 102 days of shoot. It's like a level 2 match, for God's sakes, right?
Yeah.
And those can weigh heavier than, and if you're counting local matches, but like, and that's the hard part. In the nation, there's hot spots where you have GMs in certain divisions that are actually really good, but then how you compare them nationally is the hard point. Like, that's probably your biggest issue with data is like, he says he's a grandmaster. It says he's a grandmaster, but when at nationals he performs at 70%. Like,
yeah. So there's some of that. That's, I think, one of the big perks of ELO over the classification system is that it's literally just your match performance. There's no hiding and no kind of puffing yourself up.
Right. So if you could change the classification system, would you change the percentages of which class is which?
I don't know. So the way I look at the classification system right now is kind of like a martial arts belt system. It sort of it establishes that you've got a certain minimum set of skills if you can get this far, and I think there's value in that. I think it's also useful for, like, something for people to chase. I don't know if I'm totally behind the idea of a classification system that floats up and down in the same way that a rating would. Just because, I like that it's sort of a step change thing, and it's, ultimately we all shoot the matches to see where we end up anyway, and the classification's just kind of a nice thing to chase or a nice thing to have.
Right. Well, the nice thing is, like, in 3-gun, they don't have a classification, or did have they didn't have really a classification. They had, like, 3-gun Nation had pros and amateurs, but like there was no real way to. Yeah, I beat all these other people, but I got smoked by the other guy who really won the match. But there was a way to, at least in USPSA, there's, I beat the people who are roughly as good as me.
Yeah, look at the people who have at some point demonstrated the ability to shoot on certain standards the same way I can shoot on certain standards.
All right. Well, and the nice thing is we're having more and more moving standards, or actual field course style stages. Although the Tim Herron short course needs to be added like 10 yards, and call it the Nils Jonassen. I've been saying this the whole time, just like, we got to have like the short version, because that's a burner of like, I mean, you can probably get a 10 hit factor on that with a revolver.
Let's see. So I shot it in 7.9 the other day, I think. Was it 7.9? Yeah, 7.9. 60 points. So it would have been a little under 10, but
all right, but it's not it's possible, right? Like,
yeah.
And then people are burning it, 10s and like 12 and 14 hit factors, and it's like we need to back that up a little bit. It's a little too burny. It's a little too hosey. Yeah. But both those 2023 classifiers are way too hosey. And I don't know if they changed the high hit factors to make them a little more difficult now. But like, people do get inflated a little bit about, like, oh, I got a GM score. I'm like, bro, you're maybe A class. Like, but yeah, I mean,
the time I shot that in revolver, I think you could still drop like 3 Charlies and it'd be a GM score. And I think that's maybe a little bit too generous on targets that close. Even partials that close.
Yeah. And yeah, the no shoots really aren't that scary. At that distance. Like, now, if you add another 5 to 10 yards, I mean, that'd be a little scarier.
Yeah. And it's very much, I think, well, at least more in kind of the IPSC short course sort of vein then. Some challenging shooting at a moderate distance.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. So thank you for watching another episode of Manny Talks Shooting. I greatly appreciate it. And if you could do me a favor, go check out our sponsors when you are available. We've got D2 Custom Guns, Hunter's HD Gold, Go Fast Don't Suck, Outdoor Dynamics, Make Stuff Better, 2 Alpha Apparel, RangePanda.com, Summit City Bullets, Laugh and Load, Southern Bobby Q, and the Tom Castro Shooting Academy. Now let's get back to this awesome episode. I like that, and I bet a lot of people are like, "Oh, we want more data, Jay. We need more pushes. I want to be updated frequently." Now, you have a Patreon, right? So does that Patreon then, will that get people more updates, or is that just kind of helping move the project along?
At the moment, it's helping move the project along. I do like the idea of more frequent updates. That'd be a good hook. That might come in. One of the things that I said when I started off is I didn't want to start paywalling stuff that I'd previously been doing for free. So there's like to some degree like an effort to try and keep the data open. I think that's important. But there may be some room for frequency there.
Right. Well, and it's your time, your skill and your time that people are helping with, right? Like it's kind of like one of these things. Like I've done this for a while for just purely fun, but at some point I've got to be able to make some return on my investment of time. Yeah. It's like this media stuff is a part-time job, a part-time full-time job that it's like never stops. Like it's
yeah.
So in running the data and pulling all that is time consuming, right? Like it's kind of like a mechanic when someone's like, "Oh, I need my car work done, but I don't really want to pay what you're telling me the book value of your time is." like that's not how this works, people. Like, you pay for labor. I mean, that's pretty much what they're paying for is the labor to run the results and find new cool things. Now, have you thought about doing like a seasonal rating? Like you've got like the first half of the year and then kind of like a second half of the year kind of like this is the person who's leading in the points, like because I know David did like the best shooter of like 2023 kind of stuff based off of all the matches they had shot and what kind of point tabulation he was doing. But have you thought about doing something like that?
There's maybe a possibility there, but I think the difficulty with that is that ELO works best the more data it has to work on. So right now my data set goes all the way back to, I think it's at the beginning of 2018, I think. So wow. I'm crunching 400 matches to 450, I think now to come up with the numbers that I have. And because that means that people have an accurate rating going further back, well, like people have an accurate rating sooner. So it means that people who come into the data set later, they get placed more accurately because they've got those people prior to them to reference their scores against. And then that carries all the way forward to now. So when somebody jumps in now and shoots a major or two, I can say I've got a pretty good idea of where their actual rating is supposed to be on the basis of like 20 stages.
Gotcha. Yeah. Gotcha. Now, is there a way for your ELO system to throw outliers? Like, well, I'll use Christian Saler, for example, right? So he goes to say this major match and he puts 20% on the next closest guy. Is there a part of the formulation that kind of puts him as an outlier or something like that? Or does it affect everyone else's data super harshly that he put 20% on them, or is it a little more forgiving?
So the nice thing about ELO in this setting is that one person being an outlier doesn't make a big difference to everybody else. So essentially, like in its purest form, ELO is like a fixed sum system. Everyone gets a certain number of rating points to begin with, and they all just trade based on performances. That's not exactly the way it works anymore for shooting sports analysts, just because like adjusting the number of points you can get out of a certain stage is the easiest way I have kind of adjusting for things like stage length and quality of competition and size of match and so forth.
Gotcha.
So it's possible for more points to come into the system based on that, or some to leave, depending on like if it's a small division or a small match.
Right. So with would you say competitive shooting analytics or?
Yeah, shooting sports analyst.
Shooting sports analytics. Thank you. Do you have to physically hand crunch numbers, or are you more or less, or do you have to, or is your program kind of helping you with some of that workload?
The program does pretty much all of it. So you just import a match by its practice score URL, and then it'll do all the crunching.
Gotcha. Sweet.
I know there are people. Yeah, there are people out there. I don't know if anybody's maintaining like a local rating set, but there are people out there who are doing like local points series with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I've always liked the point series like for determining section slots instead of just like, so we got this many points, which turns into this many slots, and we're going to split this up between the section. It really promotes people to actually go out and shoot all the clubs to go maintain their points levels.
So one of the cool options there, I think there's one that your number of points is just the number of people that you beat. So if you shoot big matches and finish kind of middle of the pack there, that's treated better than finishing first out of 5 people at a small match.
Right. Yeah, because it just shows your exposure against as X many people instead of, I beat 3 other guys.
Yeah, so that's a fun one. And it's got kind of the classic sum your percentages, and I think there's one that's like a sort of Formula 1 style points, and then there's one that just kind of it's like decaying according to some mathematical formula.
Gotcha. Fair enough. Well, Is there anything you want to make sure we hit about this kind of stuff right now before we kind of switch gears?
I don't know. There's except that the big thing that the Patreon is really for is getting to the point where I can start doing ratings for A, for other sports, and B, in a way that I can sort of like run a ratings server, and you can hook up to it and sort of get the full data and not just what I can put into a spreadsheet.
Right. Yeah. That is pretty cool. I'll make sure I link the Patreon in there. You've already kind of enticed me a little bit more to actually look more, because I've looked at the Patreon. Like, it's like, okay, I'll talk to Jay and I'll figure out what this really means. But so I'll put it in the show notes. So people, if you're interested in joining the Patreon, please do so. It'll be a link down in the show notes on YouTube and on the regular podcast feed. But I want to talk a little bit more. I want to dive into the world of talking about the World Shoot a little bit, and US IPSC Nationals from this year, and then kind of dabbling into ICOR and ICOR stuff. So I guess I'll start with ICOR a little bit, and then it'll kind of transition naturally into the other part. But when did you shoot your first ICOR match?
The first one I shot, actually, I think, was the 2022 IRC in that was down in Florida. That was I think I was kind of talked into it at the awards dinner for the 2022 Revolver Nationals. That was the one in May, so I had some time to get the travel plans put together and everything.
Okay.
And yeah, it turns out that Florida in November is kind of a nice little vacation anyway. So
yeah. And I bet did you get to shoot against like Pogge and Wolf and although like McGinty?
Oh, absolutely. So I think Wolf was in open that year, so was Pogge. McGinty was in limited with me, and back in he was shooting classic for fun, I think, that time.
Yeah, he does things for fun, and it is amusing what he likes to do for fun. Because if I'm not mistaken, that's like that's like speed loader, like classic, like speed loader, isn't it?
6-gun speed loaders is ICOR classic.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
That's it's a revolver guy's revolver division.
Oh yeah, and the cool part is, I mean, for the most part, you can shoot multiple guns on, because I'm assuming there's different flights, because because you can see like an IRC, like, oh, there's open, there's limit, like you don't see like Bakken with both like limited and open score and whatnot. So there's always, the nice thing is that people can shoot more a little bit, like they can shoot different flights, or
I think they only count the first one you shoot on the calendar, for your for placement and awards and such. But you still get you get to shoot it. You still get to see how you did against everybody else.
Right. Which is cool. So I asked this to Alex, and I'll ask you, since you are one of the big top 5 revolver shooters in the country, right? And you're contending for a world shoot slot, which is pretty cool. Do you feel that the IRC should have some weighing on selecting the world shoot team for revolver?
That's an interesting question. It's tough to say. I mean, I think it's to some degree, it's different enough that it's not maybe the best indicator. Mm-hmm. Just like the switch to time plus I think there's kind of a different ICOR flavor to stages too. Sometimes you've kind of got you'll have your USPSA style field courses, but you'll also have I always say ICOR likes to let its hair down a bit compared to like USPSA stages, and it's not quite so serious business. So like you'll have your field course, but then you'll have like a stage where it's just a bunch of steel plates in front of you. Then it's got to shoot the red ones, then the white ones, then the blue ones, and there's some vision barriers to make you step back and forth some, and or they'll just be like a static steel stage where the 2 on the big steel challenge squares and 1 on the circles, and.
All right, so it's like apples to kumquats, really. I mean,
it's not quite as far away as kumquats, but it's definitely at least apples to oranges.
Right. Yeah. I mean, at least they're your top revolver shooters are at least going to go shoot the IRC for the most part, right? Unless some thing happened, like vacation time that blocks you from going to said match, right? Those diehard guys are going, and then they're the ones who also still show up to nationals. It really kind of
I think it is generally the same crowd. There are a couple of ICOR guys I can think of who don't shoot much USPSA, but the like the name that comes to mind who would be in contention for World Shoot slot mostly shoots I-Core Open, which, that doesn't have much bearing at all on the way it's shot in IPSC.
Right. Oh, well, that is probably true. So, everyone was talking about adding dots to revolvers. You as a top revolver guy, yay or nay? Dots in revolver and USPSA.
So I'm a no on that, and I've got a kind of a glib reason, which is that my eyes are still good, and until they start to go bad, I'm going to stick with the irons.
Right.
And the second one is that until IPSC does it, I don't think it ought to change here. Just because, one of my views of the purpose of USPSA as an organization is to put together World Shoot teams, and putting those teams together with an eye toward winning. And if your divisions are so dramatically different from the parent organization, then you don't really have a good way of knowing who's going to be the best bet to send and to hopefully win.
Right. And if I remember right, at least from what I heard secondhand, is most of I think if not everybody of the top revolver shooters are like, yeah, no red dots in revolver at this point.
Yeah, at least not in USPSA.
Right. Now that's why they have open I-Core where you can put a dot on it and go
drill some ports in for your 120 power factor ammo.
20 power factor ammo on a 175 grain bullet. Now, I bet if somebody could find a way to get 180 grain 9mm bullet, they would do it.
Oh, probably. I do know for the IDPA load, there's a guy out there who's starting up making 230 grain 10mm bullets.
And what? God, and that's another thing. I get talking to him, and I'm like, that reloading sounds silly. I'm like,
oh yeah,
bullet gun, just cap it off and call it
I'm a little bit more what's the word, orthodox than a lot of revolver guys as far as my press setup goes.
Yeah,
I've got I shoot a 147 grain bullet. It's M320. It's a pretty bog standard 9mm setup even for the semi-autos.
Right. Yeah, and you're not doing now. Are you running a 3.55 or a 3.56 bullet?
3.57.
3.57. Oh Lord.
Yeah, that was a bit of a challenge to find, but my gun seemed to like it the most.
Who even makes those?
Bang and Clang.
Bang and Clang. Are they a smaller shop?
Yeah, they make a lot of revolver bullets.
Okay, so that's okay. Yeah. So hopefully they sponsor the IRC so people can get certs for their bullet.
I know they sponsor Team Ruger at least.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Ruger, where's Jay's offer?
So the last time I saw McGinty and El Hasso, I said this came up in the same way it came up. So I'm saying, hey, where's Jay's jersey? And I'm like, well, for one, I see how hard they work going around to majors. I'm not sure I want that job, and I also see how hard they party. I'm definitely not cut out for that.
Yeah, exactly. The day after would be a bad day.
Yeah,
yeah, that's for sure. So, Lord have mercy, where was I going? I know I was going somewhere with this, but oh yeah, it was the World Shoot. Oh, so I know you're in contention for the World Shoot. Is how many slots are still up for grabs for the team that are not already mathematically determined?
So because not a lot of us went out to the 2024 IPSC Nationals, it's still a fairly wide open field.
Okay, so no one's locked in like Seiler is for open.
I think Poggi. I think Poggi's he's got his ticket if he wants it.
So the 2, 3, and 4 are still up for grabs.
Yeah.
Okay. And how many people are how many true people are in contention for 2, 3, and 4 then?
I think there are 4 people for 3 slots.
Okay, so we got. I'm gonna spit names. So it's you, Bakken, McGinty, and Wolf. Then
McGinty's not actually shot an IPSC Nationals, at least not in revolver. So he.
So he's not even in. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's another guy then. Okay.
Yeah. It's Wolf, me, Wolf, Bakken, and Gunther from down in Texas. I think.
Gunther. Is that his last name or first name?
Last name.
Okay.
Vincent Gunther.
Vincent. Okay. He's just someone who's not on my radar then.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've actually talked much about him with Alex, so that would make sense. So that's cool. So it comes down to Handgun Nationals, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. So that'd be cool.
People have different goals and aims there, and I won't say much about that because
nope.
So keep that close to the vest.
Right, exactly. And that's how everyone, everyone's training is different and time they can commit to it. I know. But it's cool to see that there's still, the 16 diehards. How many GMs are shooting a revolver at nationals out of the 16 people who are signed up?
It was probably like mostly GMs for this one. We did better in 2020. Like 2022, I think we had like 50 or 55. 2023, when they rolled in like all the divisions together, then people who might have crossed over to sort of play around are shooting something else. So you're really kind of filtering down to the people who are die-hard shooters in, especially I guess pretty much in production, single stack, and revolver all together now. Like it's basically the diehards in those divisions, and then everyone else is going to shoot limited optics.
Right. So speaking of that, the super squad, I'm assuming revolver and single stack on one super squad.
Yep.
So then you have limited optics, and then production have their own as well. Well, limited optics has their own, and then production will probably have their own.
I think that's the setup they've got. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that's nice. At least everyone is ever. Now, did they put Garen Singleton on the super squad?
That's a good. I don't know if he's signed up yet. Is the thing.
If he's not, he needs someone give him a freaking slot, because I want to see. I mean, for a guy who shoots carry optics, he put a hammer down shooting a revolver.
Oh yeah, he had a very good match. I think some of his issue was gear related. Mm-hmm. Revolver's one of those things where like the combination of primers and moon clips and bullets and everything will.
So federal primers, TK moon clips, and a working revolver.
Yes, that's kind of the recipe to get started at least.
Right now, do your Rugers have to have federals, or can you deviate from that?
So I haven't tried in a long time. The first year I had them, I shot Winchester primers because that's what I could get in late 2020. But nowadays it's just a diet of federals.
Right, and that's got to be the worst thing: getting into revolver with a gun that's very picky on primers in a short range.
Oh yeah.
I always knew
it's one of those things too. Like as it dirties up, it'll slow down a little bit too. Mm-hmm. You'll get soot into the works, and you'll get some extra drag. And so it might have worked for 500 rounds in practice, and you get to nationals and you're light strikes every 100.
Oh yeah, that's. Now speaking of that, what is your maintenance schedule then like on your Rugers?
They're built pretty tough. Before a major, I'll open them up and I will wipe down some particular trouble spots. Especially if I've had a heavy practice schedule leading up to a match, I'll take the cylinder off the crane and wipe down the crane barrel, mm-hmm. and that'll sometimes help with free spinning of the cylinder for more consistent trigger stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah, wiping stuff down. Otherwise.
Yeah. I know Jerry really doesn't compete with a revolver much anymore, but do you think if Jerry decided to pick up the revolver and shoot for a world shoot slot, do you think he would be giving everyone a run for their money?
I mean, it's one of those things I don't think I could bet against him. The thing. He's got the body of work, and a lot of the guys shooting now, I think most of us really started in earnest after Jerry kind of stopped shooting US-based revolver so much. Mm-hmm. I don't think he shot another revolver nationals after the switch to 8-round guns.
Oh, because he was only shooting 6-round guns then at that point.
Yeah,
which is silly because Smith was the first one with an 8-round gun,
and it's got his signature on the side too.
Exactly. You think Jerry, you got to pimp your gun, right? Well, he just came out. They just came out with a new Jerry gun for his world record.
Yeah, the plate rack setup.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. I don't think I'd spend that kind of money on I don't even think you'd probably spend that kind of money on a revolver. No.
So, well, the fact they've made so few of the 9mm Rugers means if one of those breaks, heaven forbid, I'll have to. But
yeah,
they've the used market for those is kind of off the charts right now.
Yeah. So, are you actively always searching for another gun just to have as a parts bucket?
It might be nice. It's just I don't know if I can justify spending the money on one. At the price people are asking for them right now. They've started making the 357s again, at least in smaller batches. So those are at least you can get them again.
Right. Yeah, and then I'm assuming could you buy a 357 bodied gun and then send it to TK to get a cylinder for it and make it work?
Yes, they can cut it for 9 there. Mm-hmm. The 9mm guns, they've got a shorter cylinder altogether and a little barrel extension that kind of sneaks out into the window in the frame to meet it. And so they're it wouldn't be exactly the same, but it would at least be the same ammo. And
gotcha.
Yeah, for a while I had 1.9 and 1.337, so I was carrying around a gun and its ammo and a backup gun and its ammo, and that was not ideal.
No. Now, how many times did you have to actually switch to a backup gun?
I have not yet had two at a match.
All right, I'm gonna knock on wood right now
Yeah.
because I don't want to jinx like that. Like this is bad juju. Because I do know people who shoot open division who like, especially my Canadian friends who are like, I've got one gun that can take this load, but then I have this gun that has to take this recipe of ammo, and it's like, yeah, it's just like,
Yeah, I just the Canadians I feel bad for because they have it like they can't really go and get a new one now. But
yeah, they can't get a new one. They can send it back to get fixed still, which is nice because last year a Canadian friend of mine had to send his gun back to Limcat, and he luckily was able to get it fixed. And he's like, "Yay! It came back 2 days before the major match." And I'm like, "Well, let's go zero it at this bank. Let's go."
Yeah, I load for the slower of my two guns, so I'm always chroning with my like the slower gun's my backup gun typically, and
Right.
the faster one's always chroning at like 136, 137 now. So I've got room to spare on that one for sure.
Gotcha. Yeah, makes sense. So I want to dive. So we're kind of getting near the end, but I do want to hit this last few topics. ICOR, right? Like, so is official as of what date? What date was it?
I think Friday, maybe.
So Friday is probably like the 12th, right? You are now the official statistician for ICOR.
Yep.
You took over the job from Alex.
Yeah, that was I didn't stand for election, but he asked if I would accept it if they appointed me, and I said, yeah, sure. So Alex has already done all the hard work. He set up basically all the ICOR classifiers and shot them in all 4 divisions to like figure out if the time was reasonable or if it needed to be adjusted in some way.
Yeah, we have plenty of shot up ICOR targets at the club, and yeah, they're piles, the new pile and the practice pile.
Yep.
So now you can just go back and go be the statistician and prove him wrong that all his numbers were wrong. Be like, well, no, this is what the data says.
So I don't know. I guess like I probably have access to that, like the historical records now. I could run the numbers on them, but
yeah.
I mean, there was one actually at the ICOR East Coast Regional, which I shot the last weekend of June, first weekend of July. That it seemed like it was a little bit on the impossible side, and then it turns out that was one of the ones he fixed. So, oh, that's great.
Well, that's cool that the fact that they just don't go up, right? They can go down, right? Like that's the cool thing.
Well, I think this is the first time in a while they have gone down. ICOR classification is actually, I think, really fun in the sense that it really leans into being your swing for the fences performance.
Mm-hmm.
So the high hit factor ostensibly used to be just the best score ever recorded, and I think there were probably some like data consistency issues in there. You know, people missing last shots with the timer and such, which is how some of them got to be like maybe not physically impossible, but very close.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, you get your they throw out your best score ever, and the average of your next best 3. That's your classification.
Okay. And how many ICOR classifiers are there?
I think there are like 50, 60.
Okay.
Maybe 40. So this somewhere is not as many as USPSA, but not like a dozen.
Gotcha. So you need to put 4 consistent runs in.
Yep.
To be class. And there's 4 divisions?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
Open, limited 6, and classic.
Okay, so what's the difference between limited and limited 6?
2 rounds.
Okay. Oh, so a limited gun can have 8 rounds.
Well, I think there's actually technically no limitation on capacity, and the minimum caliber in ICOR is 32, not 38. So there are rumors or legends of a gun out in the Southwest somewhere that used to be in the hands of an active competitor, and it was a 10-round 32 revolver.
Probably a very custom gun, though.
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, I don't know. That's something I'd love to get my hands on because I still love the curiosities. But
yeah, well, and it almost seemed like you could eliminate a division, but I'm surprised that there isn't a rimfire classification, like a rimfire classification sub, like part of a sub game, because there's a lot of rimfire revolvers. Right now, you couldn't really knock down steel very reliably, so you'd only be able to do it with paper classifiers. But
yeah, I mean, maybe as classifiers, there's something to that. But like as a classification only thing, or as a
I wouldn't recognize it in a major match because you wouldn't like a big championship because it'd be a pain in the butt. Like how do we score this? Do you have to put 3 shots of 22 on the popper for it to count? I mean,
how do you activate this target?
Yes, throw a rock at it.
You got to shoot it, then leave the shooting area, then kick it over, then back to the shooting area.
Yes. Oh, that maybe.
Yeah.
That just makes me chuckle now. But no, that's cool. So you're going to be able to look at the data and figure it out now. Are you already going to work on making a system for iCore then, like you did with your USPSA data?
So that the plan with the analyst program as it stands is to be able to rate all kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
So the big thing I'm working on right now is sort of genericizing all the code that deals with sports and scoring.
Mm-hmm.
So when I wrote it at first, the very first thing I wrote it for was to display USPSA scores online, like on a website, in such a way that you can filter out certain stages.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the guy mentioned ELO, I've already got this score parser. I'll just use that as the base. So it's always been very USPSA centric at the core, and it's been obviously a gigantic project undoing that. But I'm getting there now to the point where I should be able to actually run ratings on non-USPSA sports in the not super distant future. So
right.
PCSL could use it, maybe iCore definitely. IDPA if somebody wants to go to the effort of maintaining that data set.
Right. So which one of those? So if you finished with the data, the analyst program, is there one sport that's above the rest, or is it kind of like if you turn on the switch, it's going to be like a green light for everything all at once?
It should be. Well, there's some work I have to do to support certain different ways that PracticeScore or other data sources store their results.
Mm-hmm.
So the nice thing about USPSA, IPSC, PCSLs, they all, like the data internally is all stored in the same structure.
Right.
iCore is a little bit different. IDPA is a lot different. Like a sporting plays thing or a PRS match, those are going to be different still in some other way.
Right. So you'll have to tweak the parameters for your essentially to be like, all right, I've got to throw all this out and pretty much write some new code for all of this. And
and it also depends at the moment on remaining in PracticeScore's good graces. So
yeah. Have you had open conversations with Ken and the team over at PracticeScore?
Not really. I've talked briefly with Eugene once or twice about it, and they haven't shut me down yet. But
mm-hmm.
Again, I kind of exist at their mercy to some degree. I've talked with USPSA a bit about getting access to their scores in some way, and mm-hmm. I think there's actually maybe more support than you'd expect for that, at least with the conversations I've had.
Right. It just depends on how Rick's able to give out the data for you, mm-hmm. after he's able to skim it and filter it and
what they're willing to let go of to some degree.
Right. Well, and they're trying to protect the membership information essentially that goes along with it. And I mean, they've already said they don't store your credit card information. Like I remember I think it was on David's podcast with Rick and Jake, like around Christmas time. They definitely said we do not store your credit card information. Like mm-hmm. It's just bypassed. You don't have to worry about membership, and if you're a life member, you don't have to worry about them taking more money from you. I mean,
you're all done.
Well, and then the best part is you can put your life member number on your jersey, like I did. Like I'm like, yeah, this is me. Nice. This is my identifier. Well, it's weird because then I only shoot USPSA or IPSC, but if you go shoot another major, like, oh, yep, this number doesn't apply to anything. It's just kind of like RO, like jerseys that are made for range officials. And they say range officer on them, and then you're like, you're wearing it at another match. You're really not. It's like, so then I've been to a couple matches. They've asked people to like tape over that part. And be like, yep, you have no authority today.
Oh yeah, you're not supposed to. I mean, I don't think it's like a written rule, but I think there's a policy that says you're not supposed to actually wear the NROI jerseys if you're not like actively refereeing a match.
Yeah, that is a true statement. Like, I mean, sometimes you just got to know. Oh, people are like, oh, this is the jersey I wore today. You're not supposed to wear that today. You're supposed to wear it tomorrow.
Yeah.
This is what I'm like. Whatever. Let's go. And people learn. That's just how it goes. Mm-hmm. But yeah. God, there's so much. We've dived into so many different things. It's been so awesome. I'm thoroughly geeking out, enjoying this. Actually, even though my face doesn't say it, sometimes it is in here. I do have a couple more questions I want to run through you before we call this, but you did bring it up. You got to tell me what your make ready is then.
All right, so I will typically. So now I'm back on USPSA rules at least through September, right?
Right.
So I'm back into my full USPSA habits. So like I'll get a draw, I'll get a good grip, I'll dry fire a couple of times just to make sure everything's in good shape. I'll load the gun. I'll run my stage visualization one last time. I do a couple of dry grips, like I'll have my other hand up so they don't notice the RO knows I'm not ready yet, and then I'll just kind of go from my starting gun hand position up to the gun and back down and make sure that's all tidied up, and then just hands to where they're supposed to go, and then I'm off to the races.
Gotcha.
It's one of those, like, it always feels like when I'm doing it, it's like I've been here for like 2 minutes. They're like everyone. I'm sure everyone is like glaring at my back, but I'll look at it on video and it's like 25 seconds. So it's not bad by GM make ready standards.
Right now, as a competitor, I know like in IPSC it's completely different. It's you pretty much take the gun out, you load the gun.
Yep.
But do you think we need to find some way to limit, like, because we've talked about all the downtime from like with recording it? Do you think there should be a limit on your make ready?
I mean, I wouldn't hate it. I'm fine either way. It was kind of nice actually, like the IPSC stuff, because some of that preparation you just sort of do at the line while they're finishing resetting.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to worry about grip chalking your hands every stage because you got your glove on.
Yeah.
Which is kind of nice. I mean, I've seen people like they'll pro grip like 2 shooters back or 3 shooters back, and then they get to the line, they're smearing more on. I'm like, isn't the stuff that you just put on still wet? Like,
yeah, I think I don't know. I also like the idea of not getting a bunch of chalk into the sensitive mechanical workings of my wheel guns.
Right. Well, yeah, you have different bits and bobs to worry about. Like everyone else has just got a auto loader. They're just like, well, it's on the outside. I don't really care. You have more of a problem of, I gunked up my gun.
Yeah. So that got into one of the various little holes that goes into where all the clockwork is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No bueno at that point.
Yep.
No bueno. But
not in the slightest. Very, very, very little bueno at all.
Yeah. Yes. But so I just said no bueno. So Charles, if you're listening, I said it probably 3 times today, brother. It was funny enough. I was at a local match. He was like, you said that, like, he counted how many times I said one word in one whole podcast. And I'm like, thanks for, buddy Charles, thanks for noticing this. I'm going to keep doing this, which I just did it. So he'll have to deal with it. If he even gets this far, I'll have to tell him he's got to listen to this one. But yeah, gosh, that's too funny. So Jay, I mean, obviously you're not sponsored by Ruger yet, but do you have any other partnerships with anybody, or are you just the lone revolver man?
I am a lone wolf at the moment. I guess to some degree I'm sponsored by the people who are backing me on Patreon. So thanks to all of you.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, put more money in his Patreon. He's got to be able to order more 147 grain bullets from
those federal primers.
Yeah. Oh, the federal primers, man, like the 90-cent primers that you kind of buy still. But no, it's been, Jay, this has honestly been a blast. We've talked about a lot of different topics and a lot of different avenues of going about it. So I appreciate your time and sitting down and chit chatting with me. And I think the listeners are going to enjoy it.
Well, thank you very much for having me on. This was, like you said, it was a great conversation. And I guess we'll get to say hello at Area 5 probably, because I think that's the next place the Match Coverage Roadshow is coming to.
Well, good, because I will be there. I'll be stats, and I will help you in any way possible with what I can do. So,
a printout of the squads as they're like shot, not what was online, but like after registration's done. That's what we need. That's the one thing.
You give me a list, and I will see that it is done. I'll put it on my stats list of pre-prep to get everything ready, rock and roll, so it's all set and done.
Alrighty.
Yeah. So, guys, you're gonna see us. Hopefully, that'd be cool. But myself, you is David. So David's coming too then.
Yep.
So if you, David, myself, Corey Katz, we sit down, we do a big old we'll figure it out. We'll have a good hoot show.
That'll be a good time.
We'll figure it out. We'll use his Wi-Fi because it's his Wi-Fi. I don't have to worry about it. But guys, so check that out for Area 5. And then I'll see you at Western PA 2 weeks later because I'm going to go shoot that match. So just don't DQ me.
I'm actually going to be I'm going to be on the drone there too.
There you go. So you can't DQ me.
Yep. I am not staff.
There you go.
The most I can do is distract you with questions after you shoot.
I will accept that because we're going to have a banger of a squad. Myself, Dan, Patches, Chris Galnett. We're going to have a hoot.
That's going to be one to follow, too. Patch is definitely going to be in contention to win that one, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris, too, for that matter.
Oh yeah, it'll be the other guy. There's the two I'm racing, so we're gonna be playing hardball. So guys, thanks for watching this episode. Jay, thank you again for your time. And until next time, guys, get out and do the things. I'll see you on the next one.